welcome to Salubrious Skin with Dr. Irene. Today I'm talking about, does fasting help manage autoimmune diseases? Now, we hear a lot about fasting, the 5-2 diet, or I've done water fasts and liquid fasts around complementing it with the colonic irrigation. So there's lots of fasting that's occurring, and people are confused as to whether it's something that's beneficial for them. But specifically, I'll be talking about autoimmune diseases because obviously that is my own experience with having psoriasis, and obviously what I see in clinic a lot of the time as I treat a lot of various autoimmune diseases as well. Okay, so before I share with you the pros and cons of these diets, I will share with you a little bit about my own experience. And as I said before, I have done 2 different types of fasting diets, but unofficially I have fasted for short periods of time with varying results. Now, the official fasts were done when I was very sick with psoriasis, and it was literally covered my entire body. So the first one was a water fast for 10 days, or that was the objective, to do it for 10 days at a health farm in Sydney. And I was 18 at the time and had never tried anything like this before. So I basically thought, well, let's give it a go. I've got nothing to lose. I've tried everything out there. And unfortunately, 5 days into the water fast, I almost fainted while having a shower. And my mum was there with me, and she was very concerned, and she just thought, you know what, I don't feel comfortable with you doing this. I haven't seen any benefit. So let's head back to Melbourne and look at some different approach. But while she was there, she was talking to a lot of guests at the health farm. And one of the guests had told her about colonic irrigations and how you're eliminating a lot of the toxins from your body through colonic irrigations, and that helps with skin problems, and that's something that you certainly should give a go. So being pretty desperate and not knowing where else to turn, we did look for a lady that does colonic irrigations. I think it was actually recommended by this guest. Now, this person was in Ballarat, so that was a 2-hour drive, I think, from where we were situated. And we went there, and she was doing various colonic irrigations to me for a weekly basis. And the objective was to get to a point where we would do this on a daily basis for 10 days, and I would drink this special liquid I would make up to help with further elimination of toxins that have kind of been sitting around for a long time, and to really clear the blood and help the skin improve. So it all sounded great, and I could do it in the comfort of my own home, because my dad, being handy, made myself my own colonic irrigation unit, so I didn't have to travel to Ballarat anymore, and I would just do it at home. And I had so many sessions that I could administer the tube on my own. I didn't need any help with that. And so there I started, and over the 10 days I certainly saw an improvement to the psoriasis, and I lost a fair bit of weight, which is always good, losing an extra few kilos. But when the 10 days was over and I returned to my usual diet, the skin slowly started to come back. And, it wasn't a bad diet, because by this stage I had stopped sugar, dairy, gluten, yeast, all those big inflammatory foods. So I certainly wasn't eating a lot of that. I was probably eating a lot of carbohydrates. I didn't know about the insulin resistant stuff then, but I was pretty much eating meat, veg, and some carbs, so rice or potato or rice pasta. And I know that isn't great for me now, but at the time, compared to what other people were consuming, I certainly wasn't eating foods that were very inflammatory. So realizing that, I did all this and the effects weren't long lasting, I did come with the conclusion that basically I can't do something that's only short term. I can't sit there doing colonic irrigations for the rest of my life. I can't fast from food for the rest of my life. You need to use something that is sustainable for you on a regular basis. And my thing with colonic irrigations is that it makes the bowel lazy. So the bowel is a muscle. When it doesn't get used, it won't know how to work. So that's the issue with people having loose stools or digestive issues, chronic irritable bowel syndrome or colitis or Crohn's disease. Their issue surrounds around the fact that their loose stools aren't allowing the normal peristalsis of the bowel. So what happens in those situations is the bowel gets lazy. So when you stop the loose stools, as a practitioner, I would stop the loose stools. The bowel actually doesn't know how to work. We have to retrain it. So if you're doing colonic irrigations on a regular basis and you're utilizing it as a way of eliminating toxins, it's not something that is viable. You know, you want your bowel to be working on its own effectively. If it's not working on its own effectively, then that's a mechanism we need to work on. So to do it on occasion, if you are doing a colonic irrigation once every 6 weeks, fine, I'm not fussed with that. But if you're utilizing it as your way to eliminate toxins and you do it weekly or twice a week, you are going to make that muscle lazy and it won't work. And of course you can rejuvenate that muscle and make it work, but there's no point in putting yourself in that situation because then you have to rejuvenate it. Whereas if you just fix it, you're working on both ends of it. Okay, so that's my situation with those two fasting situations. And as I said, there was unofficial ways of that I've done fasting, and that would be, you know, I'm being very busy, I haven't had time to eat, or I've purposely chosen to eat soup on that particular day, a lot of vegetable soup, and then the next day eaten pretty normal but always healthy. And I've certainly noticed a reduction in my metabolism, a reduction in my inflammation and an improvement in my metabolism, and also a reduction in my insulin resistance. And the way I know that is because if I would go and eat some carbohydrates, which I typically would get a reaction to, I wouldn't get a reaction to it. So that was very useful for me to know. My recommendations on how you should do a fast is don't necessarily omit food completely, just reduce the calorie intake. So that 5-2 diet does that. I think it reduces your fasting days to 500 calories, and then the non-fasting days, I think it's 1,500, or depending on your weight to height ratio. I think eating food's important because you'll be so hungry if you don't eat that you will be so ravenous, and then you end up eating foods that you shouldn't be eating. So I don't necessarily agree with fasting in its entirety. I would avoid inflammatory food and stick to soups and veggies and stews and all that sort of thing, because it's very nutrient rich foods to eat that way. So by saying I'll have soup on my fasting day is great, because you're still maximizing nutrients and nutrition, and you're just reducing the calorie intake to see what the body does to respond to that. The other thing I would do is eat organic. Obviously, you're trying to eliminate toxins by fasting, and so essentially introducing toxins by eating non-organic food will negate any benefit that you will be doing. So really important to eat organic during that period of time. I generally eat organic 90% of the time. There are sometimes fruits that I can't get organic, or they tend to go off really quickly, so I get non-organic. But in the general sense, all my veggies and my meats and everything I eat is organic, and it's very very readily available for us at this this stage of this commercial world we live in. And so it's important to look around and go to farmers markets and organic stores and all that sort of thing to find well-priced organic food. I wouldn't go to the supermarkets. I think they charge way too much for organic food. You go to organic shop and they charge pretty much what their vegetables are in the supermarket. Okay, so what is happening to your body when you are fasting? So researchers have identified a boost in metabolism. There's a reduction in inflammation in the body. There is an improvement in autoimmune diseases. So definitely a change in the immune system, helps boost the immune system, and helps with weight loss, weight management, especially for people with insulin resistance or stubborn weight loss. Can't seem to lose weight easily, and certainly helps to detoxify toxins from the body. So what are the cons? The cons are you may experience headaches, fatigue, and lightheadedness. When you are drinking herbal tea, I know that olive leaf is antibacterial and kills off some of that bacteria in the gut. What happens is that dying off of bacteria can generate headaches as well. So when you're kind of detoxing, you will be perhaps experiencing headaches. The remedy for that is increasing your water intake. So keeping up with water and making sure it's filtered water will literally allow you to overcome that quite quickly and effectively. Now, if you're feeling lightheaded, that's obviously low glucose. So have yourself something to eat. You don't have to stick to 500 or 600, whatever it is. It's just less to what you're used to having. And even that's going to make a difference. So make sure that you don't feel off, because it's not essentially meant to make you feel worse. It's meant to make you feel better. Dehydration is a big one that people do experience during fasting. And it's really important to keep hydrated with filtered water, because it does help with the elimination process of toxins. And also it's important, like I said, to avoid binge eating. And you can't fight hunger. Hunger is a very overpowering sensation. You can never override it. So you avoiding food in its entirety will only lead to concerns at a future time, whether it's the next day or subsequent days or even the next week. If you're able to handle that feeling for a few days, it is going to end up getting to you. So I certainly would encourage you to eat during this fasting time. And the other thing I wanted to mention is, don't look at it as a diet, because mentally when there's a diet, that means we can break a diet. If you look at it from the perspective of, this is just the way I'm going to change things up a bit with the way I eat and see how I go and see how I feel and make a few amendments based on my reaction to this. And saying there's a diet, I'm on a diet or I'm doing a diet, really affects the mental space of where you're at, because then you think a diet's only a short-term thing. And I'm not telling you to fast forever, but fasting once or twice a week is not going to be bad. Like I said, you're still eating, you're just eating less, and you're giving your digestion a little bit of time to rest. So it's certainly not a bad thing. Now that's it from me today. That's everything that I wanted to talk to you about. I think it's something that is a great thing to try, but I would always encourage you to see your health practitioner. If you're seeing someone, and talk to them about the fasting and how you feel, and maybe they can also monitor you during that process and see how your body responds. And of course, send me some questions if you have around fasting. You can email me at info@salubre.com.au and visit our website. We've got loads of information and recipes, and we also go through a cleanse in our online program for our psoriasis sufferers. So if that's something that you're looking at doing, head on over to the online program and have a look and see if that's something for you. I'll say bye for now, but I'll see you at the next episode of Salubrious Skin with Dr. Irene. Bye for now.